Hi, this is Jonathan Dickerson in beautiful Tainan, Taiwan. We're sitting here with Antonio Graceffo, and we're doing part two of the Prah Kru Ba interview. And where we left last time, you had just had your watch stolen by a monk.
Well, Pyong's not a monk, but yeah, Pyong took my watch. I got it back, and then he stole it back. I think it changed hands about 5 times.
Okay, an interesting start. So we went through your very first day and night there, and all the crazy things that happened. But what was like a typical day like once you got used to living in the monastery?
Typical day, Pyong would wake me up at about 5:30, and this monastery is set along the tops and sides of a mountain range. So there were various stupas, various temples, little small temples, shrines, and things that we were responsible for preparing. So we'd go there in the morning. Pyong and I would clean them, light the candles, light the incense, and do the morning prayers. And then we'd come down the mountain, and you had to take basically a ritualistic shower. And it's just so cold up there, man. And you're just dumping like buckets and buckets of cold water over your head. And you just have to get really clean and then put on your Muay Thai clothes and go to meet Kru Ba. And you're not allowed to wear anything else at that point, just your Muay Thai clothes, no shoes, no shirt, and it's bloody cold. And there was this clearing where when Kru Ba meditates, spirit teachers come and teach him Muay Thai, and they also inspire him to make statues. And he built all these religious statues all over. And he built statues of the Muay Thai masters, the dead masters. And there's a clearing where all these statues stand, and so we'd go in the middle of that clearing. That's where we'd do our morning prayers. And then when he was ready, then we'd also start fighting. And we'd fight till he was done with us, and then we'd go take another shower, change clothes, eat breakfast, and then go to work.
What time would this be when like you'd have breakfast? You woke up at 5:30.
Yeah, I don't know exactly because for much of the time I was there, I didn't have my watch. But yeah, like 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay. All right, well, then after that, what are you doing?
Then we go to work, and work was farmers would grow corn, and they would call Kru Ba after they'd harvested the corn, and we'd go there and cut the corn stalks down, and that's what we'd feed the horses. And there was about 16 of us working. We had 3 trucks, which were donated, and we'd work about 12 hours a day, and that's what it took to feed the horses. There were 60 horses there when I was there. And, you know, the food that we ate was what the Hill Tribe people donated, and they're poor. They don't always have food. So we didn't always have food. So there were days we had no food. And so the boys taught me all kinds of tricks. Like they would cut the corn stalks open and chew the pulp inside and suck out the corn syrup. And I did that. And they would kick off their shoes and go in the jungle with a knife and come back with food, most of which I couldn't eat because it was just too sour, too hard, too awful for a foreigner to eat, but they would survive on it.
Wow, so you're working 12 hours a day. Mm. Not a lot. And what are you doing after that?
And then you go back, and then we'd have another session of bathing, and then Muay Thai, and then I'd be done after dinner, and then the boys would have, particularly the monks, would have other prayers they had to do, and I'd stay in my hut, usually at that time either studying Thai language notes that I'd written or writing my diaries, which would eventually become a book, and Pyong would come at some time, maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night, and we would talk for a while, and that would help me a lot with my Thai. And then we'd go to sleep, and then around 1:30 in the morning, the little monks would get up, and they'd have their mandatory prayers and things.
My question is, you're doing 12 hours of work a day in the fields. You're doing 2 separate Muay Thai sessions. It sounds like you're just not getting enough food. I mean, how are people doing it?
Well, I don't know how they do it, man. They're like the toughest people in the world. They would eat nothing. I mean, a few hundred calories a day, and yet they would survive and train and be fine. What I would do is I had a little bit of money, not a lot, so I'd go to the drivers, and the drivers all ate meat. So I'd go to the drivers and go, look, man, take me to town and buy some meat, and I'll give you half of it. And so I actually had a pretty active little social life in the town there. Everybody knew me, the hair cutter, the girl who ran the internet shop, you know, whatever it was. Like, everybody knew me when I'd come in, and they all called me Tony Muay Thai. It was the name Kru Ba gave me, and so that spread through all the tribes, and so everybody knew about it. When they'd see me, oh, Tony Muay Thai. And I'd go in there and buy fried chicken and pork and stuff and split it with the drivers.
All right, and so that's what you did to supplement your nutritional needs.
Supplement my nutrition and to get out of work. So I'd disappear for a couple hours. And yeah, and I'd always bring stuff back for Pyong and Daisho and the other guys.
Okay, well the thing is, you're doing all this Muay Thai training. Well, how good did you get?
Not. I mean, not great. I don't know. Look. Kru Ba taught me. That was my first real experience with Muay Thai. I would later get a lot better at Muay Thai much later, training in a big camp in Bangkok and in Chiang Mai and stuff. But I was grateful to Kru Ba because at that time, I mean, he taught me a lot about Thai culture, a lot about Buddhism, a lot about Thai language, history. I learned about Burma, which would greatly change the outcome of the rest of my life because I'd wound up spending time there. But as far as the Muay Thai goes, it was really great, but it wasn't the focus of what I was doing there or what I was trying to learn from him.
Okay. What relationships did you really establish in this camp? Was a couple particular people that you became friends with or close with?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kru Ba and Payong, and those were the ones I was closest with, and I liked everybody. But like I said, like the little monks, my way of interacting with them was just with fighting with them. Every time I'd see them, we'd just fight, because we couldn't really talk and there's nothing else to do. And every night I had my audience with Kru Ba, and he would teach me things and tell me life lessons and whatnot. And that was really special. And then all the time I spent with Payong was really special. The culmination of this whole experience, I think, comes when I go to the fight. Right around Christmas, there was a big fair in town. And, we went there to fight at this, like, country fair, basically. And we were getting something like 300 baht each for the fight. And...
for those who don't know, about 300 baht, how much is that in U.S. dollars?
About $9.
About $9.
That we were each getting for this fight. And so we went there for the fight, and it's really funny. There's no, like, dressing room or anything, so we're just changing clothes, like just standing in the middle of the crowd changing clothes. And, being the only white guy who's probably ever been there, everybody sort of was, entirely too curious about what it looked like when I changed clothes. And the groin protection, they only had one, and they just handed it to the next guy. And it didn't have elastic or anything because it's all sort of homemade. So it had like shoestrings, and so somebody has to tie it on.
So you had to have your jock tied onto you.
Basically,
and it was used how many times that evening?
Yeah, 100. And so that was pretty funny. And while we were getting ready for the fight, somebody said to me, "Oh, Antonio, I see your opponent." I go, "Oh, how do you know?" They're like, "Look." And I turn around, and across this sea of Thai heads, I see this one head like rising up above everybody else. This is like the biggest man I've ever fought in my life. This guy was huge. He was like, I don't know, 6 feet tall and like 1,000,000 pounds. And he was tough as nails, man. And when he got in the ring, he smiled at me. He had no teeth. And the other thing that really freaked me out was he was already bleeding.
What was he already bleeding?
He had been fighting earlier in the day. When they only
get for fun or for money?
No, for money, man. When they only get like 500 baht, whatever, per fight, they got to fight a lot to make a living.
All right. Well, we'll hear the end of this in part 3. Let's see if Antonio won or not. Thank you for listening.